right, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. I bet you're ready to start our new chapter in a new unit called Cell Biology. This chapter is titled, What Have I Become? And you have to decide what page it's on. Make sure you make a pocket for this chapter, but don't forget to take a long, serious look at yourself in the mirror. And you stare at yourself and you ask yourself, what have you become? Do you even know who you are anymore? Do you? We're going to do a lot of talking about that today. We're going to start thinking about what makes us who we are. All the little things that make us. We're going to spend a lot of time with that in cell biology. So because this chapter is part of cell biology, we're going to be studying the little things that make our bodies, starting from what we eat to what we digest, and how we build parts of our body, up to those little cells that do all the hard work in our body. So we're going to take a long look at all these special molecules that we put in our bodies to build us so that we know who we are and what we're made of. We're also going to look at a lot of the chemicals and molecules that we may find in nature, in our environment, in our biomes. A lot of the chemicals that could do us harm. We're going to study those. All in cell biology. So that's a lot to do. Learn about ourselves, learn about the little things and molecules that make us, and also maybe those chemicals and molecules in nature that could do us harm. We're going to study that whole relationship between our bodies and nature. All in, what have I become? All right, this is slide 2 in your notebook. Please write slide 2. And we have ourselves 4 awesome problems, 4 mysteries that we need to learn more about. 4 important things that are going to lead us and give purpose to this whole chapter of what have I become? Problem number 1, write it in your notebook. What's happening inside our bodies when we're healthy or sick? So what's going on inside us to decide if we're healthy or sick? Again, write slide 2 in your notebook, slide 2, and copy down problem number 1. Problem number 2 is, how do humans impact climate change? It's a big question. We've been studying this a lot. How do humans impact climate change? We're going to continue exploring this issue. Number 3, how do toxins and pollutants affect our body? And last but not least, do cells have a degree in chemistry? So, we're going to learn a little chemistry this chapter because we're studying a lot of chemicals and atoms and molecules that make our cells and our body. So we're going to look at all the amazing things cells do for us. And you got to ask yourselves, do they have a degree in chemistry? Because they do a lot with chemicals. All right, let's move on. Let's think about this. So, you ever wondered what's happening inside your bodies when you're healthy or sick? Have you ever wondered what stuff is in your body? Toxins, pollutants, any bad molecules or substances. You ever thought about what it could be doing to you? You ever heard someone say to you, you are what you eat? All right, we're going to watch this fantastic animated video that's educational, and it's brought to you by After School, who has 490,000 followers. That's 399,000 more followers than I do. All right, so you are what you eat, right? Let's think about this. We got to go and zoom in to the cells of our bodies. So the cells of our bodies are happy generally if we treat them well. And they do a lot for us. But these are tiny things that make us who we are. They build our parts of our body. And of course, we eat some foods. If we eat healthy foods, lots of fruits and vegetables, well, our cells are happy. But even if they're happy, they sometimes die. And we got to replace our cells. And we got to build them with things that we eat. So when our cells die, we have to replace them. And we do that by eating healthy. And our bodies can actually build ourselves for any part of our body from what we eat. But if we eat a lot of unhealthy food, it could cause some issues, as in this animation it's showing an unhealthy cell because of an unhealthy diet. So the question is, how can we take good care of these cells so they can do all the hard work for our bodies? Working hard for us to keep us alive if we help them. So when we eat healthier food, we tend to produce healthier parts of our body, those little cells. If we eat things that are a little less unhealthy, like processed meats like hot dogs, it can make some unhealthier cells. French fries. Depending on what you eat, you really are affecting the kind of cells in your health. So all those little cells of our body may not be so happy with us. As you can see, we're going to be relating a lot of your life to our health. And one of the most important things to our health is climate change. And it'll be the first problem of this new chapter, What Have I Become?, that we're going to study. So how do humans impact climate change? So in class, and maybe in our notes, we're going to study CO2, or carbon dioxide. You can see it's this molecule right here, 2 oxygen and 1 carbon. And apparently our cars release this carbon dioxide, this molecule, this gaseous molecule. They release it into the atmosphere. And you can see carbon dioxide amounts have really increased recently. So as we've developed technology, our carbon dioxide production, like with our cars and factories, have released a lot of carbon dioxide in the air. What we're going to do is do a lesson in class using this great Annenberg Learner. It's a website, and we're going to do this simulation, and we're going to collect data on carbon dioxide in climate change. So we're going to collect lots of data so we understand using this simulation. And we're going to run. We're going to study from year 2000 to 2110. So the year 2000 to the year 2110. And we're going to see how carbon dioxide amounts change throughout our planet over those years. In factories, in our atmosphere, in the ocean, fossil fuels, and our soil and plants. We're going to study it all. We're going to look at it all. We could do other things. We could graph our data. We could insert a chart. We could develop an equation from our data and study the percent of fossil fuel use and how much carbon dioxide is in the atmosphere. We could do all these things. But what we're going to do is an activity we've never done before in class called a Statement of Understanding, or SOU for short. And it looks a little like this. Let's check it out. Like a lot of our science activities, it all starts with a scientific problem, which is what is happening in the atmosphere to cause climate change. You'll put your name on it, and in class, all we're going to do is observe and learn from what we see. We're going to collect data or observe, and we'll have lots of good ideas in here, all of our observations. You can see you could have 7 observations or 7 data that help us understand this really big mystery, this scientific problem. Next, once we get all this data and observations, we can take the time to decide why we think something is happening. We can take time to create a hypothesis that we think answers this question, this scientific problem. This is the question, hypothesis is the answer. And then last but not least, we will spend some time doing a little bit of writing down at the bottom that tells everyone about what we now can say about carbon dioxide gas and climate change. You can see in the end, we'll end up with lots of great observations and data. We'll end up with a really nice hypothesis that we feel like answers this big, complicated scientific problem. And then we'll spend some time writing and practicing writing using evidence. We'll make a nice statement or claim using evidence and talking about what we've learned. We'll do it all with this virtual lab or this simulation. We go by decade by decade. These little gray squares are, each gray square represents 25 gigatons of carbon. Giga means a lot. It means a billion tons of carbon. So 25 gigatons means 25 billion tons of carbon. So just one square. You can see we have lots of carbon stowed away in the soil. We have some way down low into the earth. And then we have carbon, gigatons of carbon in our plants, in our atmosphere, and even in the ocean a little. We run this simulator, and we will study how carbon dioxide amounts change throughout Earth up to 2110. And we're going to kind of look at where the carbon dioxide is going when we use carbon around us. All right, after we do that activity in class, we're going to move forward, and we're going to start thinking more about what's going on in our bodies and what makes our bodies. We're going to start looking at atoms like this. We're going to start thinking about all of what these little materials do to make our cells and help keep us healthy. All right, let's start doing it now. Here's slide 10. Slide 10 is pretty interesting looking. All right, since we are what we eat, let's take a look at. So it says interpret the model of this organism. You can see this organism is a simplified version. It's a model, right? So it's pretending that an organism looks simply like this, and things go from the external environment. So you have external environment here. You have the outside of the organism here, external. And then you have the inside of the organism, internal, inside. Your job is to complete this phrase in your notebook, just like you see, using some of these words and some other words that we could find on page 37 of your notebook. So let's begin. In your notebook, make sure you write slide 10. And let's finish this up. It says the blank. If it's a black blank, it means we can pick a word from here. So it says the blank shows. So what is this? We called it a model. This whole thing, this whole image is a model. And there's our word right there, model. The model shows blank going somewhere. So if we start on the left, what would we call these? You got water, glucose, and other materials. What word here would you like to describe them? Glucose, chemicals, or molecules? Which of those words would you like to put in the first blank, or the second blank here? The model shows blank going, and let's just choose in, going in. Period. Then we have this new blank. We have to decide. So make sure you pause it and finish sentence 1 before going further. All right, the next blank says page 37, example word. Well, page 37 brings us right to this in your notebook. It's called Great Transitions. You glued this into your notebook. We need a word that we can use that counts as an example. And you can see this is the example. All of these words are examples. So choose one of these words, for example, for instance, to illustrate, namely, this can be seen or specifically. Choose one of these 6 words from your page 37 of your notebook and write it right here in the first part of sentence number 2. So choose that word and then write it right in here. It shows water and blank. So it's a word for sugar. Which one of these words is a word for sugar? And we'll write it right here in this blank. It says it shows water and sugar going into the internal or inside. So it shows glucose or sugar going right inside. And then it's another period. It says what blank. Now, are we talking about enters or leaves, is the same or different? So this next sentence, sentence number 3 says, what goes in, is it the same as what leaves? So you compare here. These are the items that are going in, the molecules or chemicals, and these are the molecules or chemicals leaving. Are they the same or different? So what goes in, is it the same or different? You decide. The next blank says, page 37, cause and effect words. So you need to choose a cause and effect word for this first blank for the last sentence. Okay, so turn to page 37 in your notebook and choose one of these words to use to start that last sentence. All right, the last one asks you to choose one of the words in quotations, and then finish the statement using the word bank